Welcome to a special episode of my vlog, an unsolicited and uneducated football analysis with David Valentin. I am I am honored by the folks that I have with me today. Uh, One thing that we found out in the pandemic is football without the fans is nothing. It's just 22 guys kicking a ball, and football without the narrators, the color commentators, it truly lacks the flavor. If you're like me, by the way, obviously by my accent, you know that I'm not from Stevenage. I'm a supporter here in Orlando, Florida. If you want to know how I became a fan of this fantastic club, there's a video in my channel you can go watch. But anyways, the 4,400 miles between myself and Center Circle at the Lamex Stadium disappear every Saturday morning, Tuesday afternoon, when the two gentlemen here serenade me, usher me into the greatness of our beloved club, the Tricky Reds of England. And it is without further ado my pleasure to introduce Steve Watkins and Dean Thompson, the voices of Stevenage Football Club. Gentlemen, every day that I watch Stevenage, I hear you guys through the magic of BBC's Three Counties Radio, and I follow service. Thank you very much for accepting my invitation.
No, it's a pleasure, David. When we're doing the commentary, you're one of the people that we're thinking about because we know that you tune in every week.
Thank you very much.
So we know you're there.
Thank you, appreciate it, Dean.
Yeah, I look forward to your tweets or your messages to us. So it's always good to know you're not actually talking to ourselves. There are actually people there listening to us and they want to interact. So it's great.
We do have listeners.
No, absolutely, and the fact that I'm not the only international supporter of Stevenage. There's several people. I noticed some people in New Zealand and Australia that, I mean, I comfortably watch the game, early in the morning, but some of those folks are like 3 o'clock in the morning on the other side of the world on Sunday watching a Saturday afternoon game. And I've seen people from the Netherlands, Iceland visiting the Lamex. For those that have asked me, unfortunately, I had intestinal surgery. It was very serious. I had 8 inches of my colon removed. I mean, it was a mess, and that unfortunately is gonna delay my visit another season. I know for the past 5 years, people are like, "When are you gonna come? When are you gonna come?" And life is always throwing monkey wrenches on that engine, but I'll be there. I had the pleasure of watching games here in Orlando with Stevenage fans. So Kai and Callum, uh, my hugs. Thank you guys for sharing. For allowing me to share a little bit of our local football culture with you guys. And also, I cannot forget the two men responsible for my fandom of our beloved club, and that is Taylor Williams, who I'm going to be speaking with later on. He's the founder and president of Orlando City, UK. Stevenage native, Stevenage supporter. He was there at the game where you were going around in interviewing
really?
people. Yeah, he was, and a season ticket member or holder, however you want to call it. And that's Kevin Reese, my good friend Kevin Reese, who spends half the year here in Orlando. And so I just want to thank those guys because the gift they have given me, it cannot become measured. You can measure that with money or anything. I just love Stevenage, uh, and it's just an obsession. So enough about me, guys. Let's go with introduction. Steve, I would like for you to start with you. Let us know your story. How do you become involved with Stevenage? How long you've been a fan? Because I mean, I see you guys as fans here in the United States. The usually the commentators are like have to be neutral. They work for the network, etc., etc. But you guys are unbiased. No, your guys are biased. Period. So let's start with you, Steve, and then Dean.
Yeah, well, I kind of fell into it really because I come from a rugby background. I used to all all my sporting life, I was actually playing rugby on a Saturday afternoon. Then I kind of got glass ankles, if you know what I mean, and just picking up more injuries than it was worth. And children came along, so I fell away from playing the rugby, moved to Stevenage, and I kind of just, went to the game just to see what was going on, because at that time, it was back in 1994, 95 season. Paul Fairclough was in charge, and Stevenage had a team that were very much on the up in those days. And I went along, and I got hooked straight away. And I started going to games. I didn't work in any form of journalism or anything like that. And I just kind of got myself involved with writing the programme and helping the guys out in the programme. And occasionally they'd ask me to write for one of the local papers at the time. And then I was asked if I'd like to. Darren, we spoke off air about Darren Eisted, who writes the programme now for Stevenage. He used to be the BBC Three Counties reporter for Stevenage, and he couldn't make a game up in Leek, up in Staffordshire, 1999. Cold February day that was, and that was my first introduction into working on the radio. Nervous as hell, because I've never done it before. And I've kind of stuck from there, really. So I think that's actually going to be 25 years working for BBC Three Counties in February when that comes around. So yeah, it's been a long time. It's been a long journey, and we've done an awful lot in that. I mean, initially we were just doing updates into the programme because Watford or Luton games would be the main commentary games. But obviously, as Stevenage have gone up the pyramid, they've commanded live commentary, which we've taken on, and we have some good times. We have some good times.
Fantastic. Do you know?
I don't really know how it happened. I think so. I was a supporter. I'm a supporter. I'm a hotel manager in real life. I started going just a bit before. My dad started taking me when I was a kid, so I went about 86, 87. But I don't know how you invited me along, Steve. I think we started way back when Stevenage were getting promoted from the conference into the league. Might have been before that. The press officer at the time started what he called a pubcast. It's a podcast recorded in a pub. For you guys, that's a bar.
Yeah, there you go.
And we heard all the background noise and the glasses clinking in it. Just added a little bit, and I got invited on there because I'm quite a gobby kind of supporter at the time, so they wanted someone with a. And I think it was from there, Steve, wasn't it? I think you were down at Summariser one day and you said, did I want to do it? And I came and did it. And then I did another one. And then I think it was like Rotherham at home. I do remember my first away game being Brentford, I think. And that's it, really.
Oh, that was very simple.
God knows how it happened, and goodness knows why we're still together 13 years later, but we are.
No, I enjoy. Listen, from my perspective, I enjoy it. It's like sitting with two friends, chatting, and that's what makes it awesome. When we're doing bad, you guys just say it. When we're doing great, that energy goes through the microphone. And several times while driving, I almost wrecked my vehicle in excitement. So we never really set out. We're very. I mean, I don't think there's a pair like us anywhere else. We, as you say, it's like a commentary having a chat with two guys that support the same football club and take the mickey out of each other, take the mickey out of the supporters, take the mickey out of the players, take the mickey out of the manager.
And I don't think there's anything else like. I don't think there's anyone else like
No,
him.
I can guarantee you that.
We always say how shocked we are that we've never won any awards.
I'm more shocked that we're still on air sometimes.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Listen, whatever you guys are doing, keep doing it. It's a winning formula. I don't. For the Orlando City fans that are watching this, because obviously we're gonna put this through my channel. They know. I talk about Stevenage all the time. In fact, people have told me, listen, you talk too much Stevenage. If you ask Orlando City fans to name two EFL teams that are not, obviously in the EPL, they're gonna tell you Wrexham because of the fame of their documentary, and Stevenage because I talk about Stevenage ad nauseum. And now they're gonna get to see part of the reason why I love Stevenage so much, and it's the two gentlemen here. So let's start with and this is just gonna give me the opportunity to do some research here for the second goal that I want to talk about. But let's talk about the expectations of 2022-23. Oh no, I'm sorry. Expectations to 2023-2024. Steve Evans comes to Stevenage at a time where we felt, hey, we're gonna get relegated. He pulls, in my personal opinion, one of the greatest comebacks in football. Saves us from relegation. We avoided relegation in the courtroom 2 seasons before that. We'd like to talk about that as well. I was devastated. Had Stevenage gone to the National League or the conference, how the old timers call it, uh, there's no Stevenage for me. There's no EFL I follow. I probably would have done what some friends that whose teams are in the National League. I will have to go into some dodgy websites to try to catch the BBC's radio commentary, and it would have been devastating. I had a friend that in Ohio that follows Grimsby, the one season that they were relegated. Might as well you would have told him, hey, somebody kill your dog. I mean, it was really bad, and I was really fearful that was going to happen to us. So yeah, if we can talk about where were we, where two clubs had to die to save us, the Steve Evans revival, and, and where we are, and where we ended up being last year. I think it's great to point that out, and then after that, where we are right now. So we started first with Steve last time. So Dean, if you don't mind starting on that topic.
Well, I mean, we had some couple of poor seasons, didn't we? Really, it's been pretty bad, and I think now with the budget, I mean, it was all down to budget, really.
Mm-hmm.
And Phil always puts a lot of money in, but there were bigger sides coming into that league. We were a small side, we had a small budget. And he tried different managers. He tried the marquee manager with Teddy Sheringham, the ex-England international. That didn't work, so Darren Saul took over, homegrown manager, brought in Glenn Roeder, who was a very well-known sort of coach and footballer in England as his mentor. Worked for a while, missed out on playoffs. Darren went, Dino came in, again, homegrown. Had done well in non-league with Nuneaton. Had a good second season, got us onto the edge of the playoffs with a player called Elias Chair coming in on loan from Queen's Park Rangers. And then we put Alex Ravel in charge, first job in football with a small budget. It was always going to be difficult. So it was really difficult, Steve, wasn't it? And in the end, they went to Paul Tisdale. They were after Steve Evans, but Gillingham wouldn't sack him or let him talk to us. They were doing quite badly. They had a lot of players out injured, and Phil wanted Steve, and in the end, they plumped for Paul Tisdale, which again didn't work. And then we called in the gaffer then, which then, as you've said, it was magic, miraculous.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Steve?
Not everybody was pleased with the signing, to be honest. When Steve Evans did come to the club, because we've played against Steve Evans' sides probably for 20, 25 years. And we know exactly what Steve Evans was like to play against. I had been fortunate enough to see Steve Evans away from the touchline before and after games, and he was a lovely guy. And I think he'll admit himself, between 3 o'clock and 5 o'clock, he's a bit of a beast. And he has demands, and there's no niceties with the opposition at all. But afterwards, he's very respectful. You'll see him in his interviews. He's a very respectful man. But people will only remember what they saw of him on the touchline back in those days. But I think, as you said, what he's done has just been phenomenal. And not only has he got the side winning and climbing up the EFL, he's also won the fans over, because there's a lot of fans who were against him coming to the club in the first place. But I don't think there's too many of those around at the moment, because they see what he can deliver, and he's our Steve Evans. He's our boss, and that's what people love about him.
No, absolutely. And since we went down in that direction, let's go ahead and talk about the gaffer himself, Steve Evans. As you can see, I got the Steve Evans jersey T-shirt there. Big fan of the man. I have a friend here in Orlando City fan, Leeds supporter of a lifetime, who remembers Steve very fondly. And
Did Steve manage Leeds?
he did. He sure did. He sure did, my friend. He sure did. I am reminded. There's here in Orlando, we're fortunate to have a nice British or English community. In fact, our culture, the founders of Orlando, if I can go on a rabbit hole for a second, guys. The founders of Orlando City are from Stoke, and the stadium mimics pre-World War II English stadium design. The original, the manager, the ownership, everything was very English. To be honest with you, Wayne Rooney's brother John Rooney played in Orlando. So we have a nice community of people that are from the UK that live here, and they contribute to the culture. And so I get to learn a few things, right? And one of them is that fact that may save your life one day. You never know. So with Steve, when I talk about it on social media, a lot of people tell me there's three things. Number one, he's gonna leave you, right? That's the first thing. He's gonna leave you. The second, something better comes up, he's gonna abandon you. Which, managers come and go, the supporter remains. That's what I always say. Then the other one is the attack is weight, which I think is a cheap shot. Talking from a fat guy's perspective myself, it's cheap, and that doesn't matter when it's time to win games. Steve has proven that. And then the other one is this level of aggression towards Stevenage. Like, people don't want little old Stevenage, the satellite. We call that satellite cities here in the United States. When you're big enough not to be a suburb, but at the same time you are big enough to be your own entity. I grew up in a city like that in my native Puerto Rico, and it's weird when you're so close to the big city, but yet you're your own thing. And a lot of people have told me, "Hey, listen, Stevenage is only good for two things: pumping gas on the way to London and stopping to use the restroom, take a leak," like we say. Which is okay, whatever it is. All I know is Stevenage is the greatest city in England, if you ask me personally. So, with that said, Steve had, and I'm sorry that I'm on this long-winded intro. Steve, to finish, Steve on LinkedIn, out of all applications, had a great message where he said that if he had a brick if he was to build a house with every brick that has been thrown his way, he will build a house the size of Buckingham Palace. And I think That's just beautiful. Because the guy doesn't care what they say. What they say about him, as long as he's a winner. So you guys know him better than I do. Obviously, I only get to see the Steve of the sideline, the conferences after games. Who's Steve Evans? The guy when the camera is not on. Let's get start with you, Steve.
Um, I have to say, well, in my 25 years, I've probably had the pleasure of dealing with 11, 12 managers. Steve Evans is by far and away the easiest one to interview. He will not shirk away from a question. I can ask him anything, and he fully understands the reason for me asking him a question, and he will answer it to the best of his knowledge. It might not be the answer that you want to hear or anything else, but he doesn't take offence to it. Certain managers in the past, I might have asked a question, and the response I get is very short and kind of, why are you asking me this? With Steve, you can just ask him whatever you want, and he will answer it. And that's what I love about the guy. He's so open. He is an open book when it comes to things like that. You can talk to him, and he'll tell you pretty much, from the heart, how he's feeling. How many times does he talk about the referees? I dread to think how many times. And I don't know, does he get in trouble for talking about referees like he does? Because in the past, it used to be people were fined for bringing the game into disrepute because they've had a go at the referees. I think people know that when Steve does it, there is an honesty there, and he's speaking from the heart, and it's not just a one-off rant. It's him actually sort of shooting from the hip and saying it as it actually is. And that's what I love about him. He's just great. And I look forward to going to see him on a Thursday on a pre-match, which is a lot easier than interviewing him after a game, as it is with any manager, because he's very relaxed and he's open, and he'll talk a lot more rather than being caught up in the emotions of a game that's just happened 15 minutes ago when when he's got some axe to grind about a refereeing decision. But no, he's great. I've said it before he came to the club. There's a lot about Steve Evans that people don't really see until they actually get to speak to him, because it's not the same man that you see between 3 and 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon.
Wow. Dean?
Good as we can only we've had Graham Wesley was a manager 3 or 4 times, but he was as good as 4. He was difficult, wasn't he? Because he didn't like you asking a difficult question. His reply would, "What do you mean by that?" And you'd have to justify yourself. And it took him a long time, didn't it, Steve, to trust you and me. And, occasionally I'd get a message on a Friday night saying, what people need to know, Dino, is, which means he wanted me to put a message out for him. He's got 6 players out injured, etc., that he didn't really want the opposition to know. But he wanted our fans to know how difficult things had been, etc., etc. Revs was as good as gold, but, again, he was in a really difficult position with players that weren't up to the standard, basically. Paul Tisdale was very difficult. Teddy Sheringham would give you a yes or no answer, so that was a waste of time. His standard response was, yep.
Oh, wow. Who was the manager? Who was the manager? It's not for Stevenage, but who was the manager that every time in League Two he was interviewed, the guy was super aggressive, basically just wanted to fight.
From Crawley, yeah.
Yes. Wow. My goodness.
John Yems.
Yeah. I mean, he when we defeated his team, that man looked like he just walked in and found his wife in some compromising position with the milkman.
Yeah,
and
he's no longer in football. So there's
my God, he's no longer in football. Oh wow, what a shame. because I mean it made great TikTok fodder to share. I mean, if I was a fan of the supporter of that club, I would have been devastated having such a
But
guy.
yes,
Because
I think Steve gives plenty of content, doesn't he? And I was Steve was doing an interview. I take the pictures and what have you, and I moved away, and the chairman was waiting to speak to Steve. And Phil said to me, "What's he talking about?" I said, "Oh, I don't know. You know what Steve's like." And he came over. He said, "What are you talking about?" He went, "Oh, I don't know. I just talk, don't I?"
listen, I have to agree. I have to agree with Steve. A lot of people think that the blaming the ref is a cheap excuse. I have to say, with us, I mean, we get that Monday morning letter. Oh, after review, you guys were right, and Steve gets vindicated by that. But like I always say, that doesn't bring back points. Apologizing. I feel that refereeing is bad everywhere. Here in MLS, we probably have the worst referees. And To let the Stevenage fans, we had a referee that was not from MLS. We have a tournament called Leagues Cup between Mexican teams and MLS teams, which is US Canada. And this guy came from El Salvador. We were playing against Inter Miami and Messi, right? And Messi wanted a yellow card. He will give our player a yellow card. Messi was supposed to get a second yellow. He just avoided, and he was so corrupt. So that I mean, I my relationship with refs, they know. I mean, I sit six rows away from the pitch, and for 90 minutes, I let them my weekly frustrations. My nephew Daniel wants to be a football ref. God bless him. So I asked him. I said, "Why would you want to do that?" He's like, "Because I want to fix the game, Uncle." So
Yeah.
God bless him. Let's wish him the best. All right, guys. So let's talk about the greatest moments of last season. The first goal, and if you allow me, usually when I do my podcast, I have one of my co-hosts who's very good at this. He does this part, so bear with me as I make the attempt to share the video. Um, okay, so the first goal that we're gonna talk about is gonna be the one and only Dean Campbell. God bless you, Dean Campbell, wherever you are. I believe he's Barrow where he's playing at right now. So let's go ahead and watch our great goal against Villa in the FA last year. So let's go ahead and watch that. And there we go.
Look at that.
Oh my goodness, insanity! Let's view it one more time. Dean Campbell, baby, greatest thing to come out of Scotland since Steve Evans. So let me uh let me go ahead and go to our next goal, and that way we can talk about the next one. And it is this one that I'm about to show you guys. In my opinion, uh, is the greatest goal that I have ever seen in the history of me watching football. Plain and simple. So just bear with me while we get in. I have to admit, I was late to log on. I should have had this stuff ready. So um, let's see. Come on, making me look bad. All right, there it is. And for the Orlando City fans that are joining us, this goal is gonna be impressive. We're gonna talk about it because I had to. go and watch both Stevenage podcasts to understand what just happened here. So let's go full screen as we patiently wait. This looks great. Get in.
Amazing, wasn't it?
My goodness, my goodness. All right, guys, let me get out of here and rejoin you guys. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, so the first one was Dean Campbell against Aston Villa in the beautiful FA Cup run that ended with Stoke. You know how many Stoke fans are live in this town? I wanted to I wanted to show up, but I tell you guys, and I'm sorry that I'm getting super pumped. I'm a football fan, and talking about my club gets me like that. Um, the for a lot of people that know me, that week after week after week hear about Stevenage, this was their first introduction to the club. This game was nationwide, internationally. Here in the United States was on ESPN Plus. It was 5 o'clock in the afternoon over here. So I mean, there was no excuse to watch this game. And a lot of people are like, "Oh, the team Stevenage is playing. I'm gonna watch it." And we showed up in such a way. So unfortunately, I could not watch the game with your narration because outside of the UK, the FA Cup is not shown. So it was with obviously the narrators that ESPN wanted to use. Some nice fellows from the UK. At least they're employing people there. um, but I actually got to hear you guys the when you narrated that. And Steve, I'm surprised you still have a voice. I figure you probably jumped 5 rows in front of you. You guys were incredible. Can we talk about that goal? Let's start with you, Steve, and we move on to the.
Yeah, there's an old colleague of mine, John Marks, who used to work for BBC Three Counties Radio, commentating on Watford. And I can always remember an epic commentary of his when Watford made it through to the finals of the playoffs. And it was the dying seconds of the game. And I think Watford would probably, it was either the same scoreline or they were just trailing by a goal. And Leicester they were attacking, they won a penalty, and the penalty would have just knocked Watford out, and the season was over.
Was that against Leicester City?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
We have watched now 2013. We have watched that video here in the United States 1,000 times.
Well, the commentary from John was absolutely superb because the penalty was saved, and Watford go up the other end, and somehow Troy Deeney manages to.
Troy Deeney, yes.
Yeah, and I listened to that commentary, and it was just wow. Every now and then, that sort of game comes along, and I think that the Villa game was just that sort of game for us. There we are against Premiership opposition. Time's running out. We're behind, and we've come back. And well, the goal. When I listened back to what I'd said then, it was you're almost listening in embarrassment because you're just thinking, did I really say that? Because at the time, you're just talking about all sorts of emotions that are going through your head, and it was just incredible. And the man who's sat next to me wasn't saying a word. He couldn't speak at all. And we just looking across, and you could see the Stevenage fans. How hard was that?
Oh my God!
To just stay focused and try and talk about what was going on without just losing it and cracking up. And I don't know how we did it, but we've had many people talk about it afterwards. It was some afternoon that, and I'd love to have another one of those this season.
Oh, for sure, Dean.
Yeah, we're both, as you've heard, we've both got an allegiance with the club for 25, 30 years, and a lot of commentators come and go. Because it's a job for them. For the BBC. They move around. A lot of press officers, like the club they work for and they get involved, but they don't have the love and the history. And for me and him, that day, I couldn't sum it up then, and I really can't do it now, really, because it was just incredible. And, he said to us, Steve Evans, if we're still in the game after 60 minutes, we'll have a go. And boy, oh boy, did we have a go. I mean, yes, we got the penalty, and yes, Jamie Reid, the bottle and the mental thing you have to go through to score a goal in Villa Park late in the game, that's. But to win it, I mean, goodness me, to win it was just. I mean, I don't know the word to use.
The biggest memory was driving back from Birmingham back to Stevenage, just the two of us in the car, and we were just. There was no conversation. It was
we were in silence.
What happened? What have we just seen? Unbelievable. And
Unbelievable.
And that's all the conversation was. It was nothing about Dean Campbell was brilliant or I didn't think much of him or whatever. It was just, what have we just seen? What was it? And all the way, and then it would go quiet, and then it just be, I can't believe it. It was just one of those days.
It's magical moment. I think cup runs usually for I've been there with Orlando City when Orlando City was in third division. It's just magical. It's an opportunity to give the big boys a bloody nose and to tell people we are here. We're good. And if you ask Villa fans here in the States about that, they give Stevenage a lot of respect. I met a lot of people that are like, who do you follow in England? I'm like, well, Stevenage. Oh, that's a good side. So I think two things have done wonders for our club. First, the Burger King partnership. When I wore that jersey here in Orlando, people would literally cross the street to ask me what club was that. Sometimes the partnerships, a lot of people don't think they matter. They do, in my opinion. And that was a great moment. I got a quick story. We're gonna deviate. That's how I am, guys. And my regular audience knows how I roll. That video that about 2013's Watford versus Leicester City. I have said 1,000 times. If you know, I'm Jewish. I go to a synagogue, and at the time, this is a few years back. I was, they had a need for Shabbat school teachers. Shabbat school is like Sunday school, pretty much. And I was dealing with the teens because little kids. I don't have it in me, and I used that same video because we were talking about when God helps you, when you think that the world has abandoned you, and I used that video to say, hey, you can never lose faith. I just love that video and see Troy Deeney taking his jersey off and throw himself into the fans. Listen, you have to have a heart made of stone if you don't get pumped up. Obviously, if you're a Leicester City fan, this doesn't apply to you. To me, I just wanted to throw myself in the. That's what football is all about. That's why I tell people you have to go to the stadium. If you're supporting your local club, you can stay home. It's not a TV show. You gotta go and just feel it, just sweat it out. If you have never hugged a stranger or been bathed in blackwash beer, you have not lived. I'm sorry, you have not lived. That's what
I do remember that day at the final whistle. I was standing up. I was looking across. He's handed to me to say something because he can't speak. And I remember crying.
Oh,
like
I believe it.
Throat. And when you take a breath to stop that quivering in your throat, didn't stop it.
Yeah, for sure.
Looking over at those 3,500 Stevenage fans, I wanted to be. As much as I love what I do, it's days like that I want to be in amongst it. And
what I remember was after the game was over, all the fans going, whoa, 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 everywhere we go. I mean, you could hear it. It was just a magical moment. In the history of our club, and one that I will never forget. To go to the second goal, to the beautiful Danny Rose, who now is at Greensby.
He is a
Um,
beautiful man.
yes, he is. How can I say this? One of the most impressive goals because it's knowing the rules and playing your luck. I always say on our show that football is a pound of talent and an ounce of luck. And I had some fans that tell me, "Well, luck. There's no luck in football, man. You're downgrading the player's ability." And I disagree with that. Sometimes it's just the lucky bounce of the ball that creates magical moments. And this again, I wanna send a shout out to Nate and to Matt, who obviously produced the two podcasts for Stevenage, and they in both shows it was explained to me or to the audience that Danny Rose was pushed out by a defender, just happens to be inside the goal, and there's nothing in the rules that says that the referee has to tell you, "Hey, come back in. You can come back in at any moment." So Danny just stood there or nailed in behind goal. The goalkeeper puts the ball on the ground, forgets to look back. His teammates didn't tell him that the ball was, that he was back there. The fans are not gonna help him, and he puts the ball. Then Rose comes from behind, steals it. We win the game. That was the winning goal, and pandemonium exudes. I remember watching this. It was a Tuesday game, so I was watching this at work, and my coworkers were like, "What just happened? What just happened?" I'm like, "I don't know, but it's good. The ref is allowing it, and it was complete pandemonium at the north stand." Um, take us through that moment. Let's start with you, Dean, since Steve started the last time.
Well, I mean, usually when a goalkeeper gets the ball in his hands, you look away, don't you? I'm looking up the pitch, I'm looking down in the dugouts. You know, and then all of a sudden, I just remember hearing the crowd go, and I think he caught both of us by surprise, as well as the goalkeeper, didn't he?
Hmm.
Because you don't look in the back of the net, do you?
Yeah, for
When you're a
sure.
commentator, you're looking up the pitch, you're looking to see where Pidge is. Has he got back in time to win his header and put it back? And yeah, it was just one of those moments. It's sheer comedy.
The
Absolutely.
thing, the thing I love about it is when you pulled it up on YouTube. There, you see the thumbnail, and it's a picture of him from the side, almost like a sprinter waiting to start a run, and he's in the goal, and you can see the net and everything, and he knows exactly what he's doing. He's waiting for the goalkeeper to just put the ball down, and he was off. He was going to pounce, and that's the thing I love about it. It was just so premeditated, and he tried it again a couple of times later on in the season, and the other goalkeepers weren't having any of it. They were wise to him. They knew what Danny Rose was about and what he was going to try and do. But yeah, it was cheeky, and that epitomised Danny Rose, a player that plays with a smile on his face, a real cheeky, impish kind of character, and that just summed him up for me.
No, absolutely. Great moments. If you are looking for an English team to support week in, week out, Stevenage. I think those two goals are probably, if you're a Stevenage supporter and you want to get somebody to come to the Lamex or you want somebody to support a club, just show those two videos. That's enough said. Um, let's move on to something more you guys, as the time is coming to an end pretty soon. One of my fascinations is I am learning English geography with you guys because every week we are going to a new city that I never heard of. I know a lot of the fans make fun of me because I can sometimes never pronounce the names of the cities properly. But you know what? I have the same problem when I go to New England states and here in the states, and I have to like, Siri, how do you pronounce this city's name? Oldham. I was calling it Oldham. All right, stop it. And yeah, anyhow, I know that I would like for you guys to talk to us about what is it like to set up at home for a game. What's the technology behind it, the setup to get your voices through the iFollow service and through Counts Radio, BBC's Three Counts Radio, and the other one, which I feel is more challenging, is when you have to go on the road. And that game on the road is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours one way. So let's start with that. Let's start with that. Whoever wants to go, I'll leave it to you guys.
I know we'll want to start this one.
Well, it's more by luck than judgment we get on here sometimes because Steve's not very patient with technology, David. And if it don't work the first time, that's it. He's kicking it. He's throwing it. He's throwing his program on the floor. And he hasn't switched the switch on or something usually. So, but yeah, no, Steve gets there very early. He likes to get there early. He says I pitch up at 2:45 and sit down and just yak. Look, there are lots of different ways of doing it. We look at people sitting next to us that are following it for the away team's radio station, and they've got post-it notes and stickers, and they've got all the players' names with all their career goals and how their form's been. And we do a little bit of we know players, we know what clubs they've played for. We do that kind of research. But some guys, don't they, Steve? They go whoa, way over what you need. But home games, we've got our own little seats. It's a really difficult press box to get in and out. Once you're in, you're in. You can't get out because it's a long row that way and there's fans to the left. So we're usually tucked up there by 1:30. I go off and do my fan interviews. And then by 2:00 when the program starts, we're in that seat till 5:05 then when we need to get out and get down to speak to Gaffer.
Steve?
Yeah, pretty much the same. It's, for a home game, it's just a relaxing morning at home, and then I'm lucky enough. I only live like a mile away from the ground, so I can just turn up, get set up. I don't know what people know of the technology involved. We use ISDN technology in broadcasting, and believe it or not, that's been going for 25 years that I've been doing this. It's on its way out, so we're kind of on the situation where if the ISDN starts failing, we'll be moving across to IP. But it's a little bit that's away in the future, and I think it's something they're hoping it's not going to happen too soon because it's going to be some major investment to get everybody on that. And basically, the ISDN, what we've got is like a box, which is basically a glorified telephone. You just dial it up and in, and you've got broadcast quality audio. And it's pretty solid until it doesn't work, and then it gets a little. Or I'll tell you what the classic is. Dean pulls the power lead out in the middle.
It has been known. Milton Keynes away. I moved my knee and knocked the plug out of the socket, literally. And then silence.
And then he denies it, David. He absolutely denies that it was him. But we're not going to go there. We're not going to go
No. Now when you guys are on the road, that's to me that's the greatest fascination. And I believe the last long drive, if you will, was to Fleetwood. For our American audience, we're talking about Northwest England. I believe this year in League One, the furthest that Stevenage has to travel is Carlisle, which is right on the border with Scotland. What are those days? Because I know the fans. I have spoken to the fans. They're like, dude, you leave 5, 6 o'clock in the morning or the day before. The team does the same thing. What about you guys? Because I know you don't travel on the coach. The bus for us Americans here. You don't travel with the coach, and you don't. I mean, you drive yourselves there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 9 times out of 10, we will travel up in the morning and drive back after the game. It can be a long day, Carlisle especially. A Tuesday night in Carlisle is challenging because it's Tuesday night that turns into Wednesday morning very quickly.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, occasionally we'll stop over. Well, Fleetwood game we did stop over, and we had a great night in Blackpool, which is 20 minutes down the road from Fleetwood.
Believe it or not, I know where Blackpool is.
Yeah, and we bumped it. We
met
some
fans.
fans.
Yeah, we had some beers with some Stevenage fans the night before. Had a wander along the prom in the morning, and then up. But we've probably only done that 2 or 3 times in 13 years, haven't we?
Yeah, during lockdown, we had to do it. I had to travel on my own. Dean wasn't allowed to come with me. I had to go on my own, and I had to stop over on some of these long ones because of the travel time and the fact that you were on your own. So they would turn into 2-day games, especially Carlisle and Barrow and Hartlepool. I think some of these grounds.
Do you guys? Sorry, Steve, to interrupt you. Do you guys remember I believe it was last season or the one before? We played Barrow, and they had a problem with the floodlights.
Yep.
And which, from my perspective, super stupid. If we had allowed the game to play itself, there wouldn't be a need for floodlights. But I digress. The game started when it was supposed to be over. A lot of the fans were like, "Yo, I gotta jump on the train, get home because it's leaving." It was insanity. That game, I believe, finished probably 7:30 ish, and a lot of people were telling me, "Hey, I got home at 4 o'clock in the morning the following day." So did that happen to you guys as well? I'm assuming, obviously, you can't go, you can't leave like the fans. You have to stay there, obviously.
Yeah, I was there. I was there for that. I don't think Dean was there for that.
Where was that?
Barrow, a couple of seasons ago.
Oh,
when
yeah,
lights failed. And we were sitting there, and all of a sudden the lights go out, and you just think the call goes out. Is there an electrician in the ground? It's like the old. Is there a doctor in the ground?
Yes.
And they ended up having to call an electrician from miles away to come. And they wouldn't start the game. Had they started the game, by the time the electrician was there, and to be honest, you could have played the game to an end without lights at that time because it was the end of the season. It was one of the last games of the season. It was just one of those crazy situations. But the league have got their regulations and their rules, and that's what had to be abided by. And of course, it's the fans that will suffer because, like you say, some of them have other places to be.
No, absolutely. And we're gonna close with a happy memory, a happy moment. Was our promotion game. As a Stevenage supporter, and again, I know there's a lot of people here that have been around since '76 and since the '90s, and God bless you. My story starts in the 2019-2020 season, and I cannot put emotion and put memories on things that happened when I wasn't there. So, for me, greatest moment of our history, as far as me being part of the club, the promotion, because coming from a moment where we had 7 games to fight for relegation, over to avoid relegation, to get promoted, to me, it was an incredible moment. Seeing the pitch invasion, I have said it on social media. I was there with you guys. I felt like I was there. I want to thank my good friend Colin Jackson, who I saw this year. He brought a official picture of our promotion with everybody from the club. It was signed. I can't thank enough every single one of the friends I have made in the club. Those that have made the trek to Orlando, those that contact me on social media. I'm beyond words. So I send you a big hug through the magic of the internet.
Well, I remember Callum passing me that photograph to take to the hotel where the guys were staying, so we could get the ones that were staying in the hotel to sign it for you.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, Max and Danny and Jamie Reed, I think, were on there, weren't they? So they were
yes.
They were staying in the hotel that I work in. So yeah.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. I finish with this that day. Orlando City was playing, and I went to the game. And when I go home, because obviously I produce content for Orlando City, there was a Grimsby fan that had been at the Orlando City game with his jersey. I mean, we were sitting in the same section. I just couldn't see him, and he was super like appreciative because people were like buying him drinks and to make him feel at home. And I just basically on it. This is on a Facebook group for Orlando City. I just say, hey, I'm a Stevenage supporter. Thank you for the 3 points. Hope you had a great time. And one of the things that happens to me when I go to games is when I run into fans in League Two, League One that are wearing their jersey. I always approach them. I say, hey, I'm support Stevenage, and there's never any animosity. It's always like, oh my god, you know about my club. And we talk a little bit about English football, and they leave with a smile on their face, knowing that how worldwide our sport has become, and that some guy in Orlando knows who their club is. So yeah, let's go ahead and talk about our promotion moment. I think fantastic. Obviously, as the recording of this video, we are sitting fourth. Should have been second, but that's a story for another day. What was that moment like? Because I remember hearing your narration. I can't help. I got emotional. I have only cried in several occasions, but for my children, my wedding day, funerals, and football. That's it. So that's it. You don't get anything else, guys. You don't get anything else. I can break my bone right now. I wouldn't cry. So let's start with you, Steve, and then to Dean.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a bit like the Aston Villa moment, wasn't it? I mean, what a season we had. And to go into that last game, and then it was very nervous playing against the Grimsby side, who, let's face it, Grimsby last season, you didn't know what you were going to get. So they could beat the best, or they could, they had a brilliant FA Cup run themselves, but weren't perhaps performing in the league. So we go into that last game, and you know that a win, I think a point might have been enough to secure promotion as it happened, but a win would certainly have done it. And we had to wait and wait and wait until Luther Wilding popped up and scored his cracker, which Dean would have enjoyed. But it was one of those. I can remember the final whistle, and I don't think I was very well that day, if I remember rightly. And I was up in the stand, and I was never going to miss that game for sure. And I was commentating on it, and I could just remember Dean's run down. He's on the pitch and doing what he does with all his players, and I'm just sitting there watching across that pitch, and you just think it's fantastic scenes. You don't see them very often, and you just try and talk about what it means and the season and how it's panned out. And it was just one of those fantastic moments for me. It's one of those ones you'll never forget.
Yeah, he's right. I mean, what everyone forgets is that Jamie Reid scored the first goal.
Yes.
Everyone forgets that. 57, 58 minutes gone, really heads in. But it was nervous, wasn't it? It was nervous. And, full house, people expectation. And, our longest serving player, Luther James Wilding, who I know and has lived with me in this. He's cooked dinner in this very kitchen, David. His digs were here for 2 or 3 years. So he's grown up with me. He's grown from sort of young footballer, young professional into a man and a brilliant guy. And he don't score goals. He's a right back, for goodness sake.
Right.
Shouldn't be playing back heels with Jamie Reid in the final third, and he did. And wow, I just remember standing up like that, looking at the ceiling of the stand, and like relief, because we'd had a tough February and March. I think we went sometimes.
I remember, yes.
5 games without a win, draw, defeat, draw. And then we won at Wimbledon, and that happened again in March time. And it wasn't till we got to sort of the end, sort of beginning of April. Easter was rubbish. I think we had 2 draws over Easter last year. And you were kind of, we dropped out of the promotion places at one point, didn't we? And it was a nervous time. And I think we'd lost at Mansfield, and we had to go to Swindon in the week, didn't we, before the game, which was a toughie. and we won that 1-0. And we absolutely played a brilliant away performance that day. And then I think a bit of the relief went. But you got to do the business against Grimsby.
Yes.
But we didn't have to do it against Grimsby, did we? Because the following week we were going to Barrow.
But as everybody said, nobody wants to go to Barrow and need a win.
Yeah. So Grimsby was kind of your first chance, if you like, and then you had another chance after that. But we didn't need it, fortunately, although we went to Barrow and won that day as well.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, we're coming here to the end. I want to thank you for accepting my invitation. Obviously, hopefully not the last time we're going to talk, and hopefully the next time we talk is face to face.
Yeah.
As I sometimes in my greatest dreams, I see myself in the East Terrace, banging away that beautiful drum. I have to tell you, I just love Stevenage so much, and you can be a cynic and say, why would you feel a connection with a club in a country you've never been to, in a city you've never been to? How is that possible? Football, my friends. I always say it. Um, if you haven't, football will make you cry for joy or anger, and if you haven't done that, you have never football. It's a sport that you could be winning 2-0 on the 80th minute and lose it 3-2 by the time it's all over. Been on both sides. And I can tell you, it feels awful when you're on the losing side. I would like to introduce the show on the Capo Stand, and for those that are watching us, there's where you can find us. My channel's at Davis Channels 76 on YouTube, and the show originally is live Monday nights at 9 p.m. And we do that through Facebook, Twitch, X, soon Instagram. So if you want to follow MLS team, we are here. Obviously, 9 p.m. on a Monday for somebody in the UK is an impossibility. Well, our gimmick is people can come on the show, talk to us about what's going on. They can come in live. MLS is on postseason already. We are not going to start the season until February. So we're going to be on a little bit of a hiatus. That's why I wanted to do the show. So there you go. If you want to follow a MLS team, we are here. And to my Orlando City audience, if you want to follow a team that will give you the greatest highs and the greatest lows, Stevenage is here. Guys, if you don't mind saying last words, let's go start with you, Dean. Once again, thank you very much, my friend. We known each other on the internet for years.
Yeah.
I made the attempt to come on the show. I can't remember that it was like an internet show that you had with Jay Ray, and when I called, I could hear you guys just fine, but when I watched the recording on the other end, it was like blah blah blah, all garble. So thank God this time it actually worked out.
We did it. Yeah. No, thank you, David. Thank you for having us. And as the phrase is going around the Stevenage fans at the moment, little non-league Stevenage in the 90s into League Two, into League One, Championship.
It is coming.
We couldn't, could we?
I believe it. In football, there's two words that never exist in football: always and never. They do not exist. So I destiny awaits, my friends. Those that don't know, destiny awaits. Thank you, Dean. Steve?
Yeah, just stay on the ride because we're having a whale of a time at the moment and thoroughly enjoying it. And you've got to make the most of it when you're in that position because these times don't come around that often. And when they do, just make the most of it. And let's hope that Orlando will be having a similar sort of situation as Stevenage as well coming up.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for sharing the microphones with me for this hour and 4 minutes. And we say goodbye. The only way I know how is by saying that football is a sport for those that don't mind having their mouth smashed and their hearts broken. Football is not played on paper, it's played on grass. If you have not cried for joy or anger over football, have you ever football? For myself, Steve, and Dean, may God bless you. And up the ball! Come on now! Get in!